So I have a question for the group as a starting point. How many of you are fans of a particular sports team? Raise your hand. Ravens, Orioles, whatever. Some of you may not admit to the team you root for, but you enjoy watching sports. Most of you raised your hands. How many would call yourself a fan of track and field?
I'm becoming one, I have to admit.
Some of
USA
you.
Championships.
Yeah.
Watched 2 races.
Now, how many of you watched the USA Championships this
I
past
don't know what the
weekend?
names of them are that I watch. I watched a woman break the record.
Oh yeah, Jalila Muhammad.
Yeah. So I won't get into my comments on that one.
Hey, I watched
But-
the
No, it was great to watch. It really was. So I just want to share a couple things. First of all, I really encourage you to be a fan. You learn so much by being engaged in distance running and track and field as a sport. It's inspiring to watch, and the most important thing is that you start to recognize that the people at the elite level are very much like you, and you begin not only to form a connectedness, but also recognize that they deal with things, the same things that we deal with as runners, and we can learn how to deal with them more effectively through watching them. I want to share the text part of a couple Instagram messages after the women's 1500 final. These messages are obviously from 2 different competitors, one of which, Jenny Simpson, finished 2nd, and another of which, Kate Grace, finished 5th. Now the time that separated them was about 0.4 of a second. And what was on the line in this particular U.S. Championships was making the team for the U.S. team for the World Championships in a couple months. So Jenny Simpson's Instagram post, and by the way, she's made many U.S. teams, been U.S. champion many times. She finished 2nd in this race. She says, making this USA team is another dream come true. All the words I can try to use to describe my gratitude, happiness, and struggle and drive just pale in comparison to the feeling. I showed up and made it happen for another year. The opportunity ahead to train for Doha, the World Championships, is a privilege. I can't wait for all the tough days and hard workouts waiting for me in Boulder. Boulder's where she trains, lives and trains. Here's Kate Grace's Instagram post. I stepped into the arena today and I lost. And that sucks. Lots of feels right now. I'm upset, I'm sad, I'm mad, but you know what I don't feel? Regret or shame. And you know what that means for next time? I'm not afraid. That was the fastest 1500 final in as far back as I can find. Faster than the last 2 years where I placed 2nd and 3rd, which means today I was a better athlete and I had a worse finishing place. All I can do with that is take humility as a gift, take the fire back to training, and trust I will be back here next year better for it. Okay, 2 different posts, 2 athletes dealing with very different emotions. But what's the commonality? What did they both finish with? I'm going back to train. I'm going from where I am now, and I'm going to train. Taking what's positive about today and moving forward. So I want to talk about 2 of the principles, not forgetting the interconnectedness between all of them, right? So just mentioning principle 1 which is the cornerstone. Consistency of training is the key to long-term development. Basically what that means is you should have a long-term vision. What keeps these two athletes focused and excited is the fact that that race wasn't the beginning or the end. They were already looking forward before they ever stepped on that starting line, right? And the second, aerobic development is the driver of improvement in distance running performance. For the most part, we develop as runners by doing long, slow distance, right? And doing that at the right appropriate paces is very important in order for you to stay injury-free and be able to do enough long, slow distance to really grow and develop. So principle 3 is what we typically practice when we're together. Aerobic strength improves a runner's ability to use the aerobic system for performance. What that means is the aerobic system that you develop is tuned when we do quality work. And the tenets underneath that principle is aerobic strength is gained by doing quality sessions and paced miles. Some of you have already had this assignment. If you haven't, at some point you probably will. Paced miles means in a longer run, having to execute race pace in a part of that run. And then the quality sessions are all the different things that we do here. We've already this season worked on running economy. We worked on VO2 max at the relay. Chances are all your lungs were working pretty hard that day. We worked on threshold development, right? All those different ways to hit different systems and develop them to kind of tune your engine. Tenet number 2, runners should understand the benefit focus for each workout and stay at or near the target paces. You don't get more benefit by running harder than you should. Oftentimes you get less because you don't stay in the targeted zone to develop the system we're focused on. Okay? And the third one, don't overinvest in single workouts. It's the sum of all aerobic strength work completed that provides the results, not the individual workouts. Chances are you could all come out here tonight with the workout assignment and do a lot more than I'm asking you to do. But it's not this night that's going to determine your success. It's this night as a small piece of the overall season. Okay? I'm not going to spend a lot more time on that one because we practice it. We talk about it. You know, we reinforce it when we're together. Principle 4 is runners develop best when following a plan aligned with a primary goal. What that means is runners typically will ultimately reach their potential or get closer to it if their training is focused on a particular event, a particular race that you've targeted. What that does is it keeps you focused on the long term. 2, and some of the other tenets, or the tenets will build around this, it keeps you from making mistakes that you shouldn't make. So let me give an example, or first describe the concept of following a plan. Is if you Google the word periodization, what that means, and it's a process we follow at Flying Feet, is you go through cycles in your training, and you should have already picked up on it even if you're new to the program. We go through base development, which is getting your volume up to where it's going to be for the season. We go through a strength phase, which is really focusing on developing that engine, continuing to develop the aerobic engine and strengthen it. We go through a peak phase to get you ready for your race. That would involve a taper, so that you can race your best when it's time to do that. And what's the 4th phase? Recovery. the one most people ignore, right? And the way the process works is when you come out of recovery for this season, you've stayed injury-free, you've been focused, and you can build on it next season by maybe doing a little more, both in terms of volume and intensity in the next season. And they all build on themselves. So the tenets under Principle 4, running performance improves when a well-constructed plan is followed. And that means routinely. It doesn't mean picking and choosing, following it one week, not another week. Being consistent, because remember, number one is consistency. Being consistent in following your plan. Tenet number 2, non-target races are important as a part of the plan, but only if those races support the primary goal. Too often, many times, what runners do is they treat races like a smorgasbord. And everything that looks good in the smorgasbord, they just pick it out and they race, and oftentimes that's not leading to their potential because, well, there's probably more reasons than I can explain in the video or this particular talk. But in general, you can't train through many races, oftentimes having to taper for them, recover from them, and if you're racing too frequently or they're not well timed, it doesn't fit well into a training plan. Finally, by following a plan, runners can more easily assess why specific results, whether good or bad, occur and use the knowledge effectively. If you're not following a plan, it's very difficult to look back on a season and say, okay, what went well and what didn't go well? What worked and what didn't work? Because you're just sort of haphazardly going through not even a process. So by following a plan routinely, you can do a lot more self-assessment and apply knowledge better the next season. Okay. Any questions about any of that?